Let me ask you something, and I want you to be honest with yourself. How many personal finance books have you started but never finished? How many budgeting apps have you downloaded, used for 3 days, then forgot about? How many times have you promised yourself, this year things will be different, only to find yourself in the exact same financial position 12 months later? I'm guessing at least a few times, maybe more than a few. Here's what nobody tells you. You're not failing because you're lazy. You're not stuck because you lack discipline. You're drowning in financial mediocrity because everyone, your parents, your teachers, the finance gurus on YouTube, has been teaching you the wrong thing. They've been teaching you complexity when you need simplicity. They've been giving you 37 steps when you need 3. They've been selling you elaborate systems when what you really need is one powerful habit that you can't screw up even if you tried. I know this because I've been where you are. 22 years ago, I was 28 years old, making $43,000 a year, with $17,000 in credit card debt and exactly $900 in my savings account. I was reading all the right books. I was listening to all the right podcasts. I knew what a Roth IRA was. I could explain the difference between a mutual fund and an index fund at a dinner party. And I was still broke. The problem wasn't knowledge. The problem was that I was trying to do everything at once. I was trying to pay off debt using 6 different strategies. I was trying to invest using 4 different accounts. I was tracking my spending in 3 different apps. I had 17 browser tabs open with different budgeting templates. And at the end of every month, I had the same amount of money I started with. Not enough. Then I met Richard. Richard was a 55-year-old plumber who lived 3 doors down from me. He drove a 12-year-old truck. He wore the same jeans every day. He didn't look wealthy. But one day, he mentioned casually that he was retiring at 57. I nearly spit out my coffee. Retiring? On a plumber's salary? How? He looked at me like I'd asked him to explain how breathing works. I pay myself first. Been doing it since I was 22. 20% of every check straight to investments. Never touched it. That's it. That's it? I said. No fancy strategies? No real estate? No side hustles? Nope. Just that one thing. Every single paycheck for 33 years. You'd be amazed what happens when you actually do one thing consistently instead of trying to do everything perfectly. That conversation changed my life. Not because Richard revealed some secret strategy, but because he revealed the real secret. Wealth isn't built by people who know the most. It's built by people who do the basics without fail. The wealthy aren't smarter than you. They're not more disciplined than you. They don't have access to secret investment strategies you've never heard of. They simply do a few critical things every single time, and they never stop. The poor and the middle class try to do everything, do it perfectly, and end up doing nothing consistently. The wealthy pick 3 things that matter and do them even when they don't feel like it. I call these things million-dollar habits. And here's what most people get wrong. They think a million-dollar habit has to be complicated. They think it needs to involve complex tax strategies or sophisticated investment vehicles or 15-step morning routines. That's garbage. A million-dollar habit is something so simple, so straightforward, that your broke self can do it on your worst day. And when you do it consistently, it produces wealth almost by accident. In this audiobook, I'm going to give you exactly 5 habits, not 50, not 17. 5. These are the non-negotiables, the foundational rules that separate people who retire with 7 figures from people who work until they're 70 and still worry about money. I've spent the last 20 years teaching these habits to over 3,000 people. I've watched single mothers become millionaires. I've seen teachers and nurses and factory workers build 6-figure investment portfolios. I've watched people who failed at every diet, every exercise program, every self-improvement scheme suddenly win with money because we made it so simple they couldn't fail. And here's what shocked me. The people who succeeded weren't the smartest. They weren't the highest earners. They weren't the most disciplined. They were the ones who picked a handful of habits and protected them like their life depended on it. Because it did. Right now, you're probably in one of 3 places. Maybe you're living paycheck to paycheck, and you feel like you're working harder every year but falling further behind. Maybe you're making decent money but have nothing to show for it. No savings, no investments, just a checking account that empties every month in a vague sense of anxiety about the future. Or maybe you're doing okay, but you look at people 5 years older than you who are financially free, and you wonder what they know that you don't. Here's what they know. Habits beat strategies. Consistency beats optimization. Doing 5 things forever beats doing 50 things for 3 months. By the end of this book, you're going to have a new financial operating system, not a complicated one. Not one that requires you to track every penny or cut out everything you enjoy or work 80-hour weeks. Just 5 simple rules that will build wealth automatically while you live your life. In Chapter 2, I'm going to show you the one habit that does 80% of the wealth building work, and why most people never start it because they're waiting for the perfect time. In Chapter 4, I'll reveal the psychological trap that keeps smart people poor and the 30-second decision that breaks you free. And in Chapter 8, I'll walk you through exactly what happens when you apply these habits for 1 year, 5 years, and 20 years. The numbers will shock you. But first, we need to talk about why everything you've learned about money is designed to keep you confused, overwhelmed, and broke. Let's start with the lie that's been stealing your future. Chapter 1. The complexity trap. Why smart people stay broke. Here's a question I want you to sit with for a moment. Why is it that some people with PhDs and 6-figure salaries live paycheck to paycheck, while some high school graduates with $40,000 incomes retire as millionaires? Is it luck? Is it intelligence? Is it willpower? None of the above. It's because the broke PhD is trying to optimize everything, and the millionaire high school graduate is executing the basics every single time. Let me introduce you to Sarah and Marcus. I met them both in 2015. Sarah was a 34-year-old corporate attorney making $175,000 a year. Marcus was a 35-year-old UPS driver making $52,000. Sarah had read 43 books on personal finance. She could explain modern portfolio theory. She had spreadsheets for everything. Marcus had never read a finance book in his life. Fast forward 8 years, Marcus retired at 43 with $1.2 million. Sarah is 42, still working, with $78,000 in retirement accounts and $200,000 in student loans. What happened? Sarah fell into what I call the complexity trap. It's the reason smart people stay broke while simple people get rich. And if you've ever felt overwhelmed by personal finance, you're caught in it right now. The problem. Here's how the complexity trap works. You decide you want to get serious about money, so you do what smart people do. You research, you read books, you listen to podcasts, you follow finance influencers on Instagram, and you learn about Roth IRAs and traditional IRAs. You learn about index funds and mutual funds and ETFs. You learn about the 4% rule and the 50-30-20 budget and the debt snowball versus the debt avalanche. You learn about tax loss harvesting and backdoor Roth conversions and real estate depreciation schedules. Your head is spinning. You've got 17 browser tabs open. You're paralyzed by questions. Should I pay off debt first or invest? Should I max out my 401k or save for a house? Should I invest in the S&P 500 or a target date fund? What about international diversification? What about small cap value? What if the market crashes right after I invest? So you do what any overwhelmed person does. Nothing. Or worse, you do a little bit of everything badly. You put $50 into a savings account 1 month. You throw $100 at your credit card the next month. You open a Robinhood account and buy 3 shares of a stock your coworker mentioned. You're busy. You're taking action. But nothing's actually building. Meanwhile, Marcus, the UPS driver, he did one thing. He set up automatic transfers. 20% of every paycheck went straight from his bank account to a target date retirement fund. He never saw the money. He never touched it. He never optimized it. He never second-guessed it. For 18 years, he just let it happen. That's the difference. Sarah knew more. Marcus did more. Sarah optimized everything. Marcus executed one thing. Sarah is still broke. Marcus is retired. And here's the really painful part. The personal finance industry doesn't want you to know this. Because if you knew that building wealth was as simple as doing 3 things consistently, they couldn't sell you courses, they couldn't sell you books, they couldn't sell you apps and coaching programs and investment newsletters. They make money from your confusion, they profit from your overwhelm. Every time you watch a YouTube video titled, "The 7 Secrets the Rich Don't Want You to Know," you're feeding a machine that's designed to keep you searching for answers instead of executing basics. Think about it. Have you ever noticed that every finance guru has a different system? Dave Ramsey says, don't invest until you're debt-free. Robert Kiyosaki says, good debt is how you get rich. Some people say you need 6 months of emergency savings. Others say that's a waste when you could be investing. Some say buy real estate. Others say the stock market is the only way. And all of them are right, and all of them are wrong. Because the truth is simpler and less profitable than any of them want to admit. It doesn't matter which path you take. What matters is that you pick one and stay on it long enough for compound interest to work its magic. But they can't tell you that. Because pick one strategy and stick with it for 20 years doesn't sell seminars. Why this matters? Let's do some math that'll make you sick. Let's say you're 30 years old right now. You're making $50,000 a year. You've decided to get serious about investing, but you're overwhelmed by options, so you spend 2 years researching the perfect strategy. 2 years of reading, learning, optimizing. Finally, at 32, you start investing $500 a month. Now let's say your friend did the opposite. At 30, she said, screw it, I don't understand any of this. I'm just going to put $500 a month into a target date fund and forget about it. You both invest $500 a month for the next 33 years until you're 63. You both average 8% returns, the historical average of the stock market. Your friend ends up with $994,589. You end up with $894,627 on dollars. The difference? $100,000. The cost of your 2 years of research and optimization is $100,000. But it's actually worse than that. Because during those 2 years while you were researching, your friend wasn't just building wealth. She was building the habit. She was proving to herself that she could do it. She was developing confidence. She was learning to ignore market crashes and keep investing anyway. And you? You were building the habit of overthinking, of waiting for perfect information, of letting fear disguise itself as diligence. This is what I see every single day. Smart people who spend years getting ready to start instead of just starting. People who are so afraid of making the wrong choice that they make the worst choice of all. They make no choice. And 10 years later, they're still in the same place, still reading the same book, still waiting to feel ready. Here's the truth nobody wants to hear. You will never feel ready. There will never be a perfect time. The market will always seem too high or too low. You'll always have debt or expenses or reasons to wait. The people who win are the people who start before they're ready and figure it out along the way. The solution. So how do you escape the complexity trap? You need to embrace what I call strategic simplicity. Strategic simplicity means you deliberately choose to do fewer things so you can do them without fail. It means you give yourself permission to ignore 95% of personal finance advice so you can execute the 5% that actually matters. Here's how it works. Step 1. Accept that good enough executed beats perfect planned. The perfect workout program that you never do is worthless. The good workout program that you do 3 times a week for 10 years will transform your body. Money is the same way. A simple strategy executed consistently will always beat a sophisticated strategy that you can't stick to. So stop looking for the optimal approach. Stop trying to maximize every dollar. Stop comparing yourself to people who are doing things differently. Just pick a path that makes sense and commit to walking it for 20 years. Step 2. Limit yourself to 3 financial priorities at a time. Not 10, not 7, 3. Right now, you probably have 17 financial goals bouncing around in your head. Pay off debt, build emergency savings, invest for retirement, save for a house, start a side hustle, increase your income, cut your expenses, build credit, buy life insurance. That's not a plan. That's a recipe for paralysis. Instead, pick 3 things, just 3. For the next 90 days, these are your only financial priorities. Everything else gets ignored. For most people starting out, the 3 priorities should be: automate 10-20% of income into investments, build a 1,000 emergency buffer. Stop creating new debt. That's it, not 10 things, 3 things. For 90 days, you wake up every day and ask yourself, am I doing these 3 things? If yes, you're winning. If no, you adjust. After 90 days, you can reassess. Maybe you add a 4th priority. Maybe you increase the percentage you're investing, but you don't add priority number 4 until priorities 1 through 3 are happening automatically, without thought, without effort. Step 3. Automate everything you can. This is the secret weapon. If you have to think about it, you'll fail. If you have to remember it, you'll forget. If you have to feel motivated to do it, you'll skip it on hard days, so you remove the decision entirely. Set up automatic transfers from your checking account to your investment account the day after you get paid. Set up automatic bill payments. Set up automatic credit card payments. Make the right choice the default choice. Make the wrong choice require effort. Marcus, the UPS driver, didn't become a millionaire because he was disciplined. He became a millionaire because he was smart enough to make discipline irrelevant. Once he set up the automatic transfer, his discipline didn't matter anymore. The money moved whether he felt like it or not. Step 4. Protect your habits from your own brain. Your brain is going to fight you on this. 3 months from now, you're going to be tempted to pause your investments because you need new tires. 6 months from now, you're going to want to stop because the market dropped 15% and you're scared. 9 months from now, you're going to rationalize spending the money because you deserve something nice. This is where most people fail. Not in the starting, in the continuing. So you need to build protection systems. Give your money a name. Don't call it investments. Call it my freedom fund, or my kid's inheritance, or my 45-year-old self's early retirement party. When you give your money an identity, it becomes harder to steal from it. Also, tell someone about your habit. Not everyone. Pick one person who won't let you quit. Every month, send them a screenshot showing you invested. Accountability isn't sexy, but it works. Step 5. Ignore everything else. This is the hard part, not the doing, the ignoring. Every week you're going to see something shiny. A new investment strategy, a crypto opportunity, a real estate seminar, a side hustle that promises to make you rich. Ignore it, all of it. Not because those things are bad, but because chasing them will break your habit, and your habit is worth more than any individual opportunity. I've watched 1,000 people destroy their wealth-building momentum by chasing the next thing. They're doing great, building consistently, and then they hear about options trading or NFTs or wholesaling real estate, and they stop doing the thing that was working to chase the thing that sounds exciting. 2 years later, they're back at 0. Wealthy people aren't smarter than you. They're just better at ignoring distractions. Real-world examples. Let me tell you about Jennifer. Jennifer came to me 3 years ago. She was 31, making $64,000 as a teacher, with $22,000 in student loans and 0 savings. She'd been trying to get her finances together for 6 years. She had 4 different budget apps on her phone. She had accounts at 3 different banks because she kept chasing sign-up bonuses. She'd started and stopped investing 7 times because she kept second-guessing her strategy. I asked her one question. What would happen if you just picked one thing and did it for a year without changing anything? She looked at me like I'd suggested she jump out of a plane. Just one thing. But what about my debt? What about my emergency fund? What about... I cut her off. One thing, for 1 year. What would you pick? She thought about it. I guess I'd invest 15% of every paycheck into a target date retirement fund. Great. Do that. Nothing else for 12 months. Don't pay extra on your debt. Don't build a huge emergency fund. Don't optimize. Just that one thing. Can you do that? She agreed. Reluctantly. 12 months later, she had $17,000 invested. She'd never had $17,000 in her life, but more importantly, she had proof. Proof that she could stick to something. Proof that she wasn't broken. Proof that she could build wealth if she just got out of her own way. That was 3 years ago. Today, Jennifer has $92,000 invested. She's on track to retire at 55 with over $2 million. And here's the crazy part. She's still doing the same thing, same strategy, same target date fund, same 15% every paycheck. She doesn't read finance books anymore. She doesn't follow investing influencers. She doesn't even check her balance except once a year during her birthday. She escaped the complexity trap by refusing to enter it again. Now let me tell you about David. David did the opposite. David was 36 when I met him. Engineer, making $92,000. Smart guy. Really smart. He'd been working on his finances for 8 years. He had spreadsheets that would make NASA jealous. He tracked every penny. He could tell you his net worth to the dollar at any moment. He was always optimizing, always adjusting, always looking for the next edge. And after 8 years, you know what he had? $34,000 in retirement accounts. 8 years, $34,000. You know why? Because he kept changing strategies. One year, he was all in on real estate, so he stopped investing in his 401k to save for a down payment. Then, he decided real estate was too risky, so he went back to index funds. Then, he heard about dividend stocks and moved everything around. Then, he got scared about a recession and went to cash for 6 months. Then, he jumped back in at higher prices. Every time he changed strategies, he lost momentum. Every time he optimized, he actually made things worse. I finally asked him, David, what would you have right now if 8 years ago you just put 15% into a target date fund and never touched it? He did the math. His face went pale. About 210,000. 210,000 instead of 34,000. The cost of his intelligence was $176,000. That's the complexity trap. It doesn't feel like a trap when you're in it. It feels like you're being smart, careful, responsible, but you're actually just stealing from your future self. Momentum builders. Here's what happens when you commit to strategic simplicity. Month 1. You feel weird. You keep wanting to do more, change things, optimize, but you resist. You stick to your 3 priorities. You automate what you can. You start to build a rhythm. Month 3. You check your investment account and you're surprised you actually have money accumulating. It's not a lot yet, but it's there. It's real. You didn't think about it every day, but it happened anyway. You start to trust the system. Month 6. Something breaks. Your car needs repairs, or you have a medical bill. Your old self would have panicked and stopped investing. But you've got a tiny emergency buffer now, and you realize you can handle this without destroying your momentum. You fix the problem and keep going. Year 1. You look at your numbers and you're shocked. You've invested more money this year than you did in the previous 5 years combined. Not because you made more money, not because you lived like a monk, but because you finally stopped getting in your own way. Year 3. People start asking you for money advice. You laugh because you don't feel like an expert. You're just doing the same 3 things you started with. But your accounts are growing, your stress is shrinking, and you finally understand what wealthy people mean when they say it's not complicated. Year 10. You're wealthy. Not quit your job and buy a yacht wealthy, but sleep well at night and retire early wealthy. And the crazy part? You barely thought about money for the last decade. You just protected your habits and let time do the work. This is what the other side looks like. This is what happens when you escape the trap. Quick recap. Let's lock this in before we move on. Complexity is the enemy of wealth. The more complicated your system, the more likely you are to abandon it. The more you try to optimize, the more you'll procrastinate. The wealthy don't have better strategies than you. They have simpler strategies that they actually execute. They do a handful of things consistently forever instead of trying to do everything perfectly for 3 months. Your job isn't to learn everything about personal finance. Your job is to pick 3 priorities, automate them, and protect them from your own brain for the next 20 years. That's it. That's the whole game. Transition. Now you understand why smart people stay broke. But here's the problem. Even if you accept that simplicity beats complexity, you're still going to sabotage yourself if you don't understand the one habit that does 80% of the wealth-building work. Most people get this backward. They focus on cutting expenses and optimizing returns when they should be focusing on the single behavior that makes everything else irrelevant. In the next chapter, I'm going to show you Exactly what that habit is and why you've probably been avoiding it your entire life. Chapter 2. Pay yourself first. The only money rule that actually matters. I'm going to make a statement that might piss you off. You don't have a money problem. You have a priority problem. Before you throw this book across the room, hear me out. You pay your rent every month, right? You pay your electric bill, your phone bill, your car payment. You pay Netflix and Spotify and DoorDash and Amazon Prime. You somehow find money for all of that, but you can't find money to invest? You can't find money to build wealth? You're too broke to pay yourself? Let me ask you something. Who's more important, Verizon or your 45-year-old self? Your landlord or your retired self? Netflix or your kid's future? I'm not trying to be mean. I'm trying to wake you up. Because the biggest lie in personal finance is that you'll invest whatever's left over at the end of the month. You know what's left over at the end of the month? Nothing. There's always something else to spend it on. Always another bill, another expense, another emergency that somehow pops up right when you were finally going to start saving. This is why the single most important wealth-building habit isn't about investment returns or tax strategies or side hustles. It's about sequence. It's about who you pay first. The problem. Let me paint you a picture. Tell me if this sounds familiar. It's the first of the month. You just got paid. $2,400 hits your checking account, and for exactly 6 hours, you feel rich. Then reality hits. Rent, $1,200. Gone. Car payment, $350. Gone. Student loan, $225. Gone. Insurance, $110. Gone. Phone, $80. Gone. Subscriptions, $67. Gone. Utilities, $90. Gone. You're at $2,122, and you haven't eaten yet. You haven't put gas in your car. You haven't done anything except pay everyone else. You've got $278 left for the next 2 weeks. You tell yourself you'll be careful this time. You'll pack lunches, you'll skip the coffee runs, and whatever's left over, you'll definitely, absolutely, for sure, put into savings this month. Spoiler alert, there's never anything left over. Because life happens. Your kid needs new shoes. Your dog needs to go to the vet. Your coworker's birthday dinner. That thing on Amazon that you definitely need. 2 drinks after work that turned into 4. The left rear tire that's making a weird sound. End of the month rolls around. You've got $43 in checking, $0 invested. Again. And you tell yourself the same lie you've told yourself for the last 5 years. Next month will be different. Next month I'll have it under control. But next month never comes, because you're paying everyone except the one person who actually matters. Future you. This is the hamster wheel. You're working 40, 50, 60 hours a week. You're making decent money. But you're funding everyone else's retirement. Your landlords, your car dealerships, the shareholders of every company you buy from, except your own. And here's the really messed up part. You're doing it because it feels responsible. Paying bills feels like being a grown-up. It feels like you're handling your business, so you prioritize it. Meanwhile, not investing? That just feels like a temporary situation. Something you'll fix when you make more money, when things slow down, when you finally get that promotion or that raise or that magical moment when life gets less expensive. I've got bad news. Life never gets less expensive. You will never have extra money lying around. If you're waiting until you can afford to invest, you'll be waiting until you're 70 years old, still working, still broke, still telling yourself that next year will be different. Why this matters. Let's talk about what you're really losing when you pay everyone except yourself. Let's say you're 28 years old. You're making $45,000 a year. You keep telling yourself you'll start investing next year when you get that raise, when you pay off your car, when things calm down. So you wait 3 years. Finally, at 31, you start investing $400 a month. Now let's say your friend started at 28, same income, same $400 a month, just 3 years earlier. You both invest until you're 65. You both average 8% returns. Your friend ends up with $620. You end up with $784,932. The difference, $2.5. That's the cost of I'll start next year. $250,000 gone. Because you paid everyone else first and yourself last. But it's not just about the money you lost. It's about the momentum you never built. It's about the confidence you never developed. It's about the habit you never formed. Because here's what nobody tells you. The first 3 years of investing aren't about the money. They're about proving to yourself that you can do it. They're about rewiring your brain to see yourself as an investor instead of a consumer. When you pay yourself first, you're not just building wealth. You're building identity. You're becoming the kind of person who invests instead of the kind of person who talks about investing. And that identity shift is worth more than the actual dollars in year 1. Because that identity is what keeps you going in year 5 when the market crashes. That identity is what stops you from raiding your accounts in year 8 when you really want a new car. People who pay themselves first become investors. People who wait for leftover money stay broke. It's that simple. It's that harsh. It's that true. The solution. Here's the framework that changes everything. I call it the priority sequence, and it's stupid simple. The priority sequence: get paid, pay yourself, 10-20% straight to destroy investments. Cover the 4 walls: housing, utilities, food, transportation. Everything else with what's left. Notice what's not on that list. Everything you think is important: your credit card payments, your subscriptions, your lifestyle expenses, your wants and wishes and nice-to-haves. Those come last, not first, last. When you flip the sequence, everything changes. Here's how to actually implement this. Step 1. Choose your percentage. I want you to commit to investing between 10% and 20% of every paycheck. Not whatever's left. Not when you can. A fixed percentage. Every time. No exceptions. If you're just starting and you're scared, start at 10%. If you're serious and you're ready to move fast, go to 20%. If you're making good money and you want to retire early, push for 25% or higher, but pick a number and write it down. This is your non-negotiable. This percentage gets paid before anyone else sees a dime. Step 2. Set up automatic transfers. This is not optional. If you rely on willpower, you'll fail. If you rely on remembering, you'll forget. If you rely on feeling motivated, you'll skip it on hard days, so you automate it. Log into your bank right now, not later, now. Set up an automatic transfer from your checking account to your investment account. Schedule it for 1 day after you get paid. If you get paid on Friday, schedule the transfer for Saturday. The transfer should move your percentage before you have time to think about it, before you have time to see the money and imagine what you could buy with it, before your brain starts telling you stories about why this month is different and you need the money for something else. Step 3. Make it hurt. I know this sounds crazy, but this is important. In the beginning, your percentage should sting a little. You should notice the money is gone. If it's too comfortable, you're not investing enough. Why? Because you need to teach your brain that this is a real commitment. If you barely notice the money leaving, your brain will treat it like a game. But if you notice it, if you have to adjust your spending because of it, your brain will take it seriously. This is temporary. After 6 months, you'll adapt. Your lifestyle will adjust to your new income level, and paying yourself first will feel normal. But in month 1, yeah, it should sting. Step 4. Treat it like rent. Here's the mental shift that changes everything. You wouldn't skip rent, right? Even if you're tight on money, even if something unexpected came up, you'd find a way to pay rent. Because rent is non-negotiable. Your investment is now rent. It's a bill you owe to future you. And future you is a way harsher landlord than any property manager, because future you will make you work until you're 75 if you don't pay up. When something comes up, and something will always come up, you don't pause your investment. You find the money somewhere else, you skip the restaurant, you don't buy the shoes, you pick up an extra shift, you sell something, but you don't touch the investment, ever. Step 5. Increase it annually. Every year when you get a raise, increase your percentage by 2-3%. If you're investing 15% now and you get a 5% raise next year, bump your investment to 17% and keep living on the same amount. This is how you turbocharge wealth building without ever feeling like you're sacrificing more. Your lifestyle doesn't shrink. It just stops growing for a minute while your investments catch up. Do this for 10 years and you'll wake up one day investing 30% of your income without ever noticing the transition. Where does the money go? If your employer offers a 401k match, start there. That's free money. Get the full match first. After that, open a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA at Vanguard, Fidelity, or Schwab. Pick a target date retirement fund that matches when you'll turn 65. That's it. One fund. Set it and forget it. No stock picking, no crypto, no individual stocks, no trading. Just a simple, boring, wealth-building index fund that you'll never touch until you retire. Real-world examples. Let me tell you about Michael and Lisa. They're both 32. They both make $55,000 a year. They both started investing at the same time 5 years ago. Michael pays himself first, 20% of every check. $2,200 a month in income means $440 goes straight to his Roth IRA on payday, automatically. The rest covers his life. Lisa does it the responsible way. She pays all her bills first, handles her expenses, and invests whatever's left at the end of the month. After 5 years, Michael has $71,000 invested. He's never missed a month. He's never even thought about missing a month. It just happens. Lisa has $19,000. Some months she invested $500. Some months she invested $0. Most months she invested around $100 when she finally got around to it. Same income, same timeline. Michael has 274% more wealth than Lisa. The only difference? Sequence. Michael paid himself first. Lisa paid everyone else first. But here's where it gets really interesting. I talked to both of them recently. Lisa is stressed about money constantly. She worries about retirement. She feels behind. She knows she needs to invest more, but she never seems to have the money. Michael? He doesn't think about money anymore. He knows he's taken care of. He knows every month his future's getting funded. He sleeps better. He stresses less. He's actually happier even though his lifestyle isn't any fancier than Lisa's. Because paying yourself first doesn't just build wealth, it builds peace. Now let me tell you what happens when you don't protect this habit. I met Tom 6 years ago. He was 29, making $62,000 as a sales rep. He came to me excited. He'd just set up his automatic investments, 15%, $575 a month. He was pumped. 3 months later, he called me. His transmission blew, $3,200 to fix it. He'd spent his tiny emergency fund on something else. He needed the money. I'll just pause my investments for a few months until I get back on my feet, he said. I told him that was a mistake. I told him to put the repair on a credit card and keep investing. I told him that pausing the habit was way more expensive than paying some interest. He didn't listen. He paused the investment, fixed the car, told himself he'd restart in 3 months. 6 months went by. Then a year. He never restarted. Something always came up. Something always needed the money more. The habit died. I ran into Tom last month. He's 35 now, still making around the same money, still has $0 invested. If he'd kept going, even with that $3,000 transmission repair on a credit card, he'd have $58,000 invested right now. Instead, he has $0 and a paid-off transmission on a car he doesn't even own anymore. The credit card interest would have cost him maybe $400. His decision to pause cost him $58,000. That's why you never pause. Ever. You find the money somewhere else. You protect the habit like your life depends on it, because it does. Momentum builders. Here's what happens when you commit to paying yourself first. Week 1. It feels weird. You see that money leave your account and you feel a moment of panic. What if you need it? What if something happens? But you push through. Month 1. You get your first statement. You've got however much invested. It's not life-changing money yet, but it's there. It's real. You did it. Month 3. Something unexpected happens. A bill, an expense, something that would have made the old you panic. But you handle it without touching your investments. You adjust. You adapt. You realize you're more capable than you thought. Month 6, you check your balance and you're surprised. 6 months of consistency has added up. You've invested more this year than you did in the previous 3 years combined. You start to believe this might actually work. Year 1. You've got a full year of proof. You did it every single month. You're an investor now, not someone who wants to be an investor, not someone who's planning to invest, an actual investor with an actual track record. Year 3. Your coworkers are complaining about money. You're quiet because you know you're building something they're not. You're not rich yet, but you're on the path, and the path feels good. Year 10. You check your balance on your birthday. You're looking at a number that would have seemed impossible 10 years ago. And the craziest part? You barely thought about it for the last decade. You just kept paying yourself first, and time did the rest. That's the power of sequence. That's what happens when you prioritize future you over present everyone else. Quick recap. Let's lock this in. Paying yourself first isn't a suggestion. It's not something you do when you can afford it. It's the foundation of wealth building. It's the one habit that makes every other habit possible. Choose your percentage, 10 to 20% minimum. Set up automatic transfers the day after payday. Treat it like rent, non-negotiable, unchangeable, unavoidable. Build your life around what's left, not the other way around. When you pay yourself first, you're not just moving money. You're declaring that your future matters more than your present comfort. You're becoming an investor instead of a consumer. You're building momentum that compounds for decades. This is the habit that does 80% of the wealth building work. Everything else is just details. Transition. Now you know the most important habit. But here's the problem. Even if you start paying yourself first, you're going to bleed money if you don't fix the second biggest wealth killer. Most people think it's spending too much on coffee or going out to eat. It's not. It's way bigger than that. It's the single expense that steals more wealth than every other expense combined. And you probably don't even think of it as an expense. In the next chapter, I'm going to show you what it is and how to kill it before it kills your future. Chapter 3. The Debt Trap. Stop funding everyone else's dreams. Let me tell you something that's going to sting. Every dollar you spend on debt is a dollar you're investing in someone else's retirement. Think about that for a second. When you make a credit card payment, you're not just paying for the TV you bought last year. You're paying interest. And that interest is profit. Profit that goes into dividends. Dividends that get paid to shareholders. Shareholders who are funding their retirement with your money. You're working 40 hours a week to build someone else's wealth while your own future gets poorer. Here's a question. Would you walk into your boss's office and say, "Hey, I'd love to donate 18% of my paycheck to Visa shareholders"? No? Then why are you doing exactly that with credit card interest? I know what you're thinking. But I need credit. I need it for emergencies. I need it to build my credit score. I need it for rewards points. Those are all lies. And they're expensive lies. Debt doesn't give you freedom, it steals it. Debt doesn't give you options, it traps you. And if you're carrying balances, paying interest, funding someone else's dreams while yours sit on hold, we need to fix that right now. The problem. Let's talk about Jennifer. 29 years old, makes $58,000 a year. Smart, hard-working, college-educated. She's got $14,000 in credit card debt across 3 cards. Average interest rate, 21%. She makes minimum payments every month, $267 total. It feels manageable. She's handling it. Let me show you what handling it actually costs. At her current payment rate, it'll take her 9 years to pay off those cards. 9 years. She'll pay $7,864 in interest, over half of what she originally borrowed. But here's what really kills me. That $267 a month? If she'd been investing it instead of paying interest, in 9 years, she'd have $41,000. So the real cost of her debt isn't $14,000, it's $55,000. The debt she owes plus the wealth she didn't build. That's what debt actually costs. It's not just the interest you pay, it's the compound growth you lose. It's the momentum you never start. It's the future you sacrifice. And Jennifer isn't alone. The average American household with credit card debt carries $15,700. At an average interest rate of 20%, they're paying $3,140 a year just in interest. That's $3,000 a year to own stuff they already bought. $3,000 that could be building wealth instead of funding Wall Street bonuses. But here's what makes this even worse. Debt doesn't just cost you money. It costs you options. It costs you freedom. It costs you sleep. When you're in debt, you can't quit the job you hate because you need the paycheck. You can't take the risk on the business idea because you need stable income. You can't move to the city you love because rent is higher and your margins are too tight. Debt doesn't just steal your money, it steals your life. Every dollar you owe is a piece of your future that someone else owns. Every minimum payment is a reminder that you're not free. And every month you carry a balance is another month you're working for them instead of you. Why this matters? I want you to do something for me right now. Pull out your phone and look at your credit card balances. Add them up. Really look at the number. Now, multiply that number by 2. That's approximately what this debt is actually costing you when you factor in lost compound growth. If you've got $20,000 in debt, you're not just $20,000 behind, you're $40,000 behind. Because while you're paying off the 20, you could have been investing it and growing it into 40. Now here's the part that should terrify you. Time is going to pass whether you fix this or not. 3 years from now, you'll be 3 years older. The only question is whether you'll be 3 years richer or 3 years more trapped. Let's run 2 scenarios. Scenario A, you keep doing what you're doing. Minimum payments, staying afloat, managing. 3 years pass. You've paid down a little debt. You've accrued a little more. You're basically in the same place. You're 3 years older with nothing to show for it. Scenario B, you get aggressive. You cut your lifestyle to the bone for 18 months. You attack the debt like it's an emergency. You get intense. 18 months of pain and you're free. You spend the next 18 months investing aggressively. 3 years pass. You're debt-free with $28,000 invested. Same 3 years, same calendar time, completely different life. The difference isn't luck. It's not income. It's urgency. It's treating debt like the emergency it is instead of a lifestyle you manage. Because here's what most people don't understand. Debt is not normal. Debt is not a tool. Debt is not something you strategically manage. Debt is an emergency. It's a financial fire that's burning your house down in slow motion, and you don't manage fires. You put them out. The solution. Okay, here's how you kill debt fast, not slowly, not strategically, fast. This is going to hurt. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but short-term pain beats long-term slavery every single time. Step 1. Stop creating new debt. This is non-negotiable. Before you pay off a single dollar, you have to stop the bleeding. Cut up your credit cards if you have to. Freeze them in a block of ice. Delete them from your Amazon account. Whatever it takes. If you can't buy it with money you already have, you don't buy it. Period. But what about emergencies? That's what your emergency fund is for. I don't have an emergency fund yet. Then your first priority is saving $1,000 as fast as humanly possible. Sell stuff. Pick up extra shifts. Skip everything that's not essential. $1,000 is enough to handle most emergencies without going back into debt. It's not enough to retire on, but it's enough to break the debt cycle. Step 2. List every debt. Get a piece of paper. Write down every debt you have. Credit cards, car loans, student loans, personal loans, loans from family, everything. For each one, write down the name of the creditor, the total balance, the minimum payment, the interest rate. Stare at this list. Get angry at it. Let it piss you off. You're going to use that anger as fuel. Step 3. Choose your attack strategy. There are 2 approaches, and both work. Pick one. The debt snowball. Order your debts from smallest balance to largest. Ignore interest rates completely. Pay minimums on everything except the smallest debt. Throw every extra dollar at the smallest one until it's gone. Then attack the next smallest. The debt avalanche. Order your debts from highest interest rate to lowest. Pay minimums on everything except the highest rate debt. Attack that one until it's dead. Then move to the next highest rate. The avalanche saves you more money mathematically. The snowball gives you faster psychological wins. I usually tell people to use the snowball because motivation matters more than math when you're trying to change behavior. But honestly, it doesn't matter which one you pick. What matters is that you pick one and execute it with absolute ferocity. Step 4. Find money you didn't know you had. You need to create a gap between income and expenses so you have money to attack debt. Here's how. Immediate cuts. Cancel subscriptions you don't use. Stop eating out for the next 90 days. No new clothes, no vacations, no concerts, no events. No anything that's not essential to staying alive and employed. I know that sounds extreme. It is extreme because your debt is extreme. You're in a financial fire. This is not the time for balance and moderation. This is the time for intensity. Increase income. Pick up a side gig, drive for Uber on weekends, deliver food, freelance your skills, sell stuff you don't use, have a garage sale, list things on Facebook Marketplace. Every dollar you make from side work goes straight to debt, not to fun, not to lifestyle, to debt. The goal: find $500 to $1,000 extra dollars per month to attack debt. It's possible. I've watched people making $35,000 a year do it. They just had to want it badly enough. Step 5. Attack with everything you've got. Take that extra money and throw it at your target debt like you're trying to murder it, because you are. Every extra dollar goes to debt. Tax refund? Debt. Birthday money? Debt. Found $20 in an old jacket? Debt. You're not saving for anything else right now. You're not investing yet. You're not building your dream life. You're eliminating the obstacle that's preventing your dream life. This is not forever. This is just until you're free. Step 6. Celebrate small wins. Every time you pay off a debt, celebrate, not with money you don't have, but acknowledge it. Tell someone. Mark it on a calendar. Take a screenshot of the zero balance. This is important because debt payoff is a psychological game. You need momentum. You need to see progress. You need proof that this is working. When you pay off that first credit card and you can call them and close the account, that feeling is addictive. That feeling will fuel you to attack the next one. How long should this take? That depends on your numbers. But I can tell you this: most people can be debt-free in 18 to 36 months if they get intense about it. Not 10 years, not eventually. 2 to 3 years of focused intensity and you're done. That's what changes everything. Not managing debt forever, killing it fast and moving on with your life. Real-world examples. Let me tell you about Marcus and Tanya. When I met them 4 years ago, they were 31 and 33. Combined income of $94,000. They had $61,000 in debt, credit cards, car loans, and a personal loan they took out to pay for their wedding. $61,000. It felt insurmountable to them. They'd been making minimum payments for 3 years and had barely made a dent. I sat them down and ran the numbers. At their current pace, they'd be paying on this debt for 19 more years, 19 years of minimum payments. They'd pay an additional $52,000 in interest. Marcus looked at me and said, "I'll be 50 years old before I'm free." That sentence changed everything for him. They decided to get intense. They sold Marcus's truck and bought a beater for cash. They moved from a 2-bedroom apartment to a 1-bedroom to save $400 a month. Tanya picked up weekend shifts as a nurse. Marcus started flipping stuff on Craigslist. They stopped going out, stopped buying anything that wasn't essential, lived like they were broke even though they were making decent money. They threw every extra dollar at their debt. Some months it was $1,200. Some months it was $2,200. 23 months later, they made their last payment. 23 months. They killed $61,000 of debt in less than 2 years. I'll never forget the call I got from Marcus the day they paid off the last card. He was crying, actual tears. "I forgot what it felt like to be free," he said. That was 2 years ago. Today? They've got $97,000 invested. They're on track to retire at 55 with over $2 million. And here's the crazy part. They're not making more money than they were 4 years ago. They just stopped letting debt steal their future. But let me also tell you about Alicia. Alicia had $32,000 in debt when I met her, student loans mostly. She was making $56,000 as a graphic designer. I gave her the same advice I gave Marcus and Tanya. Get intense, get it done, get free. She nodded. She agreed. She said all the right things. But she didn't actually change anything. She kept her lifestyle. She kept her subscriptions. She kept eating out 3 times a week. She kept paying minimums. "I'm managing it," she said. "It's under control." That was 6 years ago. You know what Alicia has today? $34,000 in debt. 6 years later, still trapped, still managing, still broke. The difference between Marcus and Tanya and Alicia? Urgency. Marcus and Tanya treated debt like an emergency. Alicia treated it like a lifestyle. One couple is free and building wealth. One woman is still stuck in the same place she was 6 years ago. Same advice, same opportunity, different level of commitment. Momentum. Builders. Here's what happens when you attack debt with intensity. Week 1. It sucks. You miss your old lifestyle. You want to go out with friends, but you can't. You want to buy something small, but you don't. It feels like punishment. Month 1. You've made your first aggressive payment. You see the balance drop more than it ever has. You start to realize this might actually be possible. Month 3. You pay off your first debt completely. You close the account. You update your debt list. You've got one less bill, one less obligation, one less piece of your freedom owned by someone else. It feels incredible. Month 6. Someone asks you to do something that costs money. You say no easily now. You're not even tempted. You've got a mission, and nothing is going to derail you. Month 12. You're halfway done. You look back at where you were a year ago, and you can't believe how far you've come. You've paid off more debt in the last year than you did in the previous 5 years combined. Month 18. You make your final payment. You're free. You sit in your car or your kitchen or wherever you are, and you just breathe. You're not rich yet, but you're not trapped anymore. The weight is gone. Month 24. You've been debt-free for 6 months, and you've been investing aggressively. You've got more money in investments than you've ever had in your life. And you realize something. You don't even miss the stuff you stopped buying. You don't miss the restaurants or the subscriptions or any of it. Because what you gained, freedom, peace, options, is worth way more than anything you gave up. Quick recap. Debt isn't a tool. It's not normal. It's not something you manage for decades. Debt is an emergency that requires an emergency response. Stop creating new debt immediately. List every debt. Choose your attack strategy, snowball or avalanche. Cut expenses to the bone. Increase income however you can. Attack your target debt with every dollar you can find. This isn't forever. This is 18 to 36 months of intensity so you can have decades of freedom. The people who win are the ones who treat debt like the 5-alarm fire it is. The people who lose are the ones who manage it forever. Don't manage it. Kill it. Transition. Okay, you're paying yourself first. You're killing your debt. You're doing the 2 things that matter most. But here's the problem. If you don't fix the reason you got into debt in the first place, you're going to end up right back where you started. And the reason isn't what you think. It's not that you spend too much, it's that you've been trained to spend wrong. In the next chapter, I'm going to show you why the way you've been taught to think about money is completely backward and how one mental shift will help you spend smarter without feeling like you're living like a monk. Chapter 4. The Wealth Mindset. Stop thinking like you're poor. Here's something that's going to sound crazy. The biggest difference between rich people and poor people isn't money. It's how they think about money. I know that sounds like motivational fluff, like something you'd see on an Instagram quote over a sunset background. But stay with me, because this is the difference between staying broke and actually building wealth. Let me give you an example. 2 people walk into a car dealership. Both make $60,000 a year. Both need a car. Person A thinks, what's the payment? Can I afford the payment? $400 a month? Yeah, I can swing that. Let's do it. Person B thinks, what's the total cost? $28,000? That's almost half my annual income. What's this going to cost me in lost wealth over the next 5 years? If I bought a $12,000 car instead and invested the difference? Same income, same moment, completely different thinking. Person A is thinking like a consumer. Person B is thinking like an investor. And that difference in thinking will compound into a difference of millions over a lifetime. The problem. Let me tell you about the poverty mindset and why it keeps people trapped even when they're making good money. The poverty mindset thinks in terms of affordability. Can I afford the payment? Can I afford this vacation? Can I afford to eat out tonight? If the answer is yes, if the money is technically in the account, they spend it. The wealth mindset thinks in terms of opportunity cost. What else could I do with this money? What am I giving up if I spend this? What would this money become if I invested it instead? Here's why this matters. You've probably heard the saying, you can't afford to be poor. It's true. Poor thinking is expensive. Let me show you. You need a car. You can afford a $400 a month payment on a new car. You take the deal. Over 5 years, you'll pay $24,000. But you could have bought a reliable used car for $9,000 in cash, saved up for 3 months, bought it outright, owned it free and clear. The difference is $15,000. If you'd invested that $15,000 over those 5 years at 8%, you'd have $22,000, and you'd still have a working car. So your affordable payment didn't cost you $15,000. It cost you $22,000, plus the stress of a monthly payment, plus the full coverage insurance you didn't need, plus the interest on the loan. That's poverty thinking. It feels affordable in the moment. It's expensive over a lifetime. Let me give you another example. You're scrolling on your phone. You see an ad, a really good ad, for shoes you don't need but really want. They're on sale, 60% off. Normally $180, now only $72. You've got $72 in your account. You can afford it, so you buy it. Here's what just happened. You paid $72 for shoes you didn't need because a company convinced you that saving money you weren't going to spend anyway is somehow a win. You didn't save $108. You spent $72 you weren't going to spend. And that $72 invested over 20 years would have turned into $336. So those shoes didn't cost you $72. They cost you $336. That's the poverty mindset. It asks, can I afford this? Instead of, what is this actually costing me? And it's not your fault. You've been trained to think this way. Every commercial, every ad, every marketing message you've ever seen has been designed to make you think about affordability instead of opportunity cost. Only $19.99 a month. You deserve this. Treat yourself. You work hard. You should enjoy your money. All of it is designed to make you think like a consumer instead of an investor. Because consumers make other people rich. Investors make themselves rich. Why this matters? Let me paint you two pictures. Both people make $65,000 a year. Let's see how their different mindsets play out over 20 years. Consumer. Chris. Chris thinks about affordability. He finances a new car every 5 years because he can afford the payment. He buys what he wants when he wants it because he works hard and deserves it. He takes vacations he finances because he can make the payments. He lives in a nice apartment because he can afford the rent. He's not irresponsible. He pays his bills. He's just making affordable choices. 20 years later, Chris has spent approximately $1.5 million. He's enjoyed his lifestyle. He's had nice things. But he's got $73,000 in retirement savings, and he's looking at working until he's 70. Investor Isabel. Isabel thinks about opportunity cost. She drives a paid-off used car because she calculated what the payment would have become if she'd invested it instead. She buys what she needs and occasionally what she wants, but only after asking what she's giving up. She takes vacations, but she saves up for them first. She lives below her means not because she's cheap, but because she knows the gap between income and expenses is where wealth lives. 20 years later, Isabel has also spent approximately $950,000. She's enjoyed her life. She's had experiences. She's lived well. But she's got $875,000 in investments, and she's planning to retire at 55. Same income, same 20 years. Chris spent an extra $550,000 and has nothing to show for it. Isabel invested that $550,000 and it turned into $875,000. The difference? Mindset. Chris thought about affordability. Isabel thought about opportunity cost. Chris worked his whole adult life to own nothing. Isabel worked the same amount of time to buy her freedom. And here's the really painful part. Chris doesn't feel like he made bad choices. He doesn't feel like he was reckless. He just made normal decisions. He lived the way everyone around him lives. That's the trap. Poverty thinking feels normal because everyone's doing it. Wealth thinking feels weird because you're going against the current. But normal gets you broke. Weird gets you rich. The solution. So how do you shift from poverty thinking to wealth thinking? You install what I call the 5-year filter. Every single spending decision gets run through this question. What would this money become if I invested it for 5 years instead? Here's the math. At an 8% annual return, money roughly doubles every 9 years, so 5 years is approximately a 47% gain. So when you're about to spend $100, you ask, am I willing to trade $147 in 5 years for this thing I'm about to buy right now? Sometimes the answer is yes. Sometimes the thing you're buying is worth more than the future money. A good mattress, quality work clothes, healthy food, tools that make you more productive. These things can be worth the trade. But most of the time, the answer is no. Because most things we buy, we forget about in 3 weeks. Let me walk you through how this works in real life. Step 1. Calculate your 5-year number. Anytime you're about to spend money on something that's not a necessity, multiply the price by 1.47. That's approximately what the money would become if you invested it for 5 years at 8%. A $100 purchase costs you $147 in future wealth. A $500 purchase costs you $735. A $5,000 purchase costs you $7,350. Write this down. Make it visible. Put a note in your wallet or on your phone that says, multiply by 1.47. Is it worth it? Step 2. Pause before purchases. Institute a 24-hour rule for any non-essential purchase over $50. If you want it, wait a full day. Come back to it with fresh eyes. Ask the 5-year question again. You'll be shocked how many things you don't want anymore after 24 hours. The impulse fades. The marketing wears off. You realize you don't actually need it. This one habit will save you thousands a year. Step 3. Separate wants from needs. You need food. You don't need DoorDash. You need clothes. You don't need designer labels. You need transportation. You don't need a new car. Make a very clear distinction between survival and preference. Survival gets funded without question. Preference gets questioned every single time. When you want something that's not a need, ask, do I want this more than I want financial freedom? Because that's the real trade. Every dollar you spend on preference is a dollar you're not spending on freedom. Step 4. Run your big decisions through the 10-year question. For major purchases, cars, houses, weddings, vacations, use the 10-year version of the filter. What would this money become if I invested it for 10 years instead? At 8%, money approximately doubles every 9 years. So 10 years is a little more than double. That $40,000 car? In 10 years, that money would have been $85,000. Still want the car? That $50,000 wedding? In 10 years, that's $106,000. Can you have a meaningful wedding for $20,000 and invest the difference? I'm not saying don't enjoy your life. I'm saying be intentional. Make the trade knowingly. If you want the fancy car and you understand you're trading $85,000 in 10 years for it, great. Own that decision. But most people never run the math. They just make emotional decisions and wonder why they're broke 10 years later. Step 5. Flip your money story. Poor people think, I can't afford to invest. I need this money for my life right now. Rich people think, I can't afford not to invest. I need this money for my life in 10 years. The difference is time horizon. Poor thinking is next month. Rich thinking is next decade. Every time you catch yourself thinking about what you can afford right now, flip it. Ask what you can't afford to give up later. This shift in thinking is what separates people who stay broke from people who build wealth. Real-world examples. Let me tell you about Derek. Derek was 28 when I met him, making $72,000 as a software developer. He was what you'd call successful. Good job, nice apartment, drove a Tesla Model 3 he'd just financed. He came to me because even though he was making good money, he had nothing saved. Zero. He couldn't figure out where the money was going. I had him track every dollar for 30 days. Here's what we found. Car payment, $590 a month full coverage insurance, $220 because of the financed car. Eating out, $680. Subscriptions, $143. Yes, really. New tech and gadgets, $300 a month average bar tabs and entertainment, $450. That's $2,983 a month on lifestyle, $36,000 a year after taxes, half his take-home pay. I asked him, "What do you have to show for spending $36,000 last year?" He looked at me blankly. He couldn't think of anything significant. I showed him the 5-year math. If you'd invested even half of that, $18,000 a year for 5 years, you'd have almost $112,000 right now. Instead, you've got a depreciating car and some tech you're not using. It hit him hard. He'd been thinking he was smart with money because he paid his bills on time and had good credit, but he'd been thinking like a consumer, not an investor. Derek made changes, not extreme ones. He didn't sell the Tesla. It was already financed and underwater. But he stopped the bleeding, cut subscriptions to $20 a month, started cooking, stopped buying tech unless something broke, committed to keeping the Tesla until it was paid off, then driving it for 5 more years instead of upgrading. He freed up about $1,700 a month, started investing $1,500 of it. That was 3 years ago. Derek now has $81,000 invested. In 7 more years, he'll be a millionaire at 38 years old. Same job, same income, different mindset. Now let me tell you about Melissa. Melissa is 46. She's been making decent money her whole career, $50,000 to $90,000, depending on the year. She's worked for 32 years since graduating college. She has $83,000 in retirement savings. That's it. 3 decades of work, and she's got less than a year's salary saved. What happened? She lived the normal life. She drove new cars. She lived in nice apartments. She took expensive vacations. She went out with friends. She bought what she wanted when she wanted it. She never thought about opportunity cost. She only thought about affordability. And because she's responsible, she's never missed a payment, never defaulted on anything. She thought she was doing fine. But she wasn't building wealth. She was building someone else's wealth. The car dealerships, the landlords, the restaurants, the credit card companies. Now she's 46, looking at working until she's 70 at minimum, and she's starting to realize that normal was a trap. I showed her the math of what she'd have if she'd invested even 15% of her income over the last 20 years. Over $2.1 million. She cried. Not because I was being mean, but because she realized she traded $2 million of freedom for stuff she doesn't even remember buying. That's the cost of poverty thinking. It doesn't feel expensive in the moment. It's devastating over a lifetime. Momentum builders. Here's what happens when you adopt wealth thinking. Week 1. It feels restrictive. Every time you want something, you have to run it through the filter. You have to think about future value. It's exhausting. You wonder if it's worth it. Month 1. You've made your first major decision using the new mindset. Maybe you decided against buying something expensive. Maybe you chose a cheaper option. It feels weird, but you're proud of yourself. Month 3. The filter becomes automatic. You don't have to force yourself to think this way anymore. When you see something expensive, your brain immediately calculates the future value. You start seeing marketing for what it is, attempts to make you think like a consumer. Month 6. You look back at your old habits and you're embarrassed. You can't believe you used to make decisions that way. You can't believe you used to finance depreciating assets or buy things you didn't need just because they were on sale. Year 1. Someone asks you to do something expensive. A destination bachelor party, an expensive dinner, a concert with premium seats. You say no easily, without guilt, without FOMO, because you're clear on your priorities now. You'd rather have freedom than experiences you'll forget in 3 months. Year 3. You're talking to an old friend who makes the same money you do. They're complaining about being broke. You realize you used to be them. You used to make the same choices, have the same complaints, but you changed how you think, and it changed everything. That's the power of mindset. It doesn't change overnight, but it compounds just like money does. Quick recap. The biggest difference between people who build wealth and people who stay broke isn't income. It's thinking. Poverty thinking asks, can I afford this? Wealth thinking asks, what am I giving up if I buy this? Install the 5-year filter. Multiply every purchase by 1.47 and ask if the thing you're buying is worth that much future wealth. Pause before purchases. Separate wants from needs. Run big decisions through the 10-year question. Change how you think about money, and you'll change how money shows up in your life. You can't build wealth with a poverty mindset. You can only build debt, stress, and regret. Transition. Okay, you've got the mindset. You're thinking like an investor instead of a consumer. But here's the next problem. Even with the right mindset, you're going to fail if you don't have a system that protects you from yourself. Because here's what nobody tells you. You can know everything about personal finance and still make terrible decisions. Knowledge doesn't change behavior. Systems do. In the next chapter, I'm going to show you how to build a simple financial system that makes the right decisions automatic and the wrong decisions nearly impossible. Chapter 5. The Automation System. Build wealth. While you sleep. Let me ask you a question. How many times have you known exactly what you should do with money but didn't do it anyway? You knew you should invest, you didn't. You knew you shouldn't buy that thing, you bought it anyway. You knew you should stick to your budget, you blew it by day 3. Here's what I've learned after 20 years of teaching personal finance. Knowledge is worthless if you don't execute, and you won't execute consistently if execution requires willpower, memory, or motivation. Because you know what happens? Life happens. You get busy, you get tired, you have a bad day, you forget, you rationalize, you tell yourself you'll do it tomorrow, and tomorrow never comes. The people who win with money aren't more disciplined than you. They're not stronger-willed than you. They just built systems that remove discipline from the equation entirely. They made the right choice automatic. And once something's automatic, you can't fail at it. The problem. Let me paint you a picture of what manual money management looks like. It's Friday. You just got paid. You log into your bank account. You see the money hit. You feel rich for approximately 4 minutes. Then you remember you need to pay rent. You write a check or set up a payment. Then you remember your credit card bill is due. You log into that account, figure out the payment, submit it. Then you remember you wanted to transfer money to savings this month. You open your savings account, figure out how much to transfer, move it over. Then you remember you were supposed to start investing this month. You Google how to open a Roth IRA, get overwhelmed by 17 different articles with 17 different opinions, bookmark it for later, and never come back to it. 3 hours have passed. You've handled 4 things. You're exhausted. You feel like you did something productive, but you didn't invest. Again. 2 weeks later, rent hits your account automatically because you at least set that up once. But you forgot about the savings transfer. And you definitely didn't open that investment account. End of the month rolls around. You've paid your bills, but you've invested nothing, saved nothing, and built nothing. Again, this is what happens when wealth building requires active participation. You fail. Not because you're lazy, not because you don't care, but because you're human. And humans are terrible at doing boring, non-urgent things consistently. Your brain doesn't prioritize future you. It prioritizes right now you. Future you doesn't send distress signals. Right now you does. So your brain solves for immediate problems and ignores long-term ones. That's why manual money management fails. It's fighting against human nature, and human nature always wins. Why this matters? Let me show you what happens when you rely on willpower versus systems. Manual Mike and automated Amy both start investing at age 30. Both make $60,000 a year. Both plan to invest $1,500 a month. Manual. Mike sets a calendar reminder to transfer money to his investment account on the 1st of every month. He's motivated. He's committed. He's going to do this. Month 1. He transfers the money. Feels great. Month 2. He transfers the money. Still going strong. Month 3. Busy month at work. He forgets until the 15th. Transfers it late. No big deal. Month 4. His buddy invites him on a last-minute trip. He's got the $1,500 in his account. He takes $800 for the trip, invests $700. He'll make it up next month. Month 5. He forgets completely. Month 6. He remembers, feels guilty, invests $3,000 to catch up. Month 8. Market drops 15%. He gets scared and pauses investments for 2 months. This continues for 20 years. Some months he invests $1,500. Some months he invests nothing. Some months he pulls money out. On average, he invests about $900 a month. After 20 years, Manual Mike has $310,000. Automated Amy sets up a direct deposit from her paycheck. $1,500 never hits her checking account. It goes straight from her employer to her investment account. She never sees it, never touches it, never thinks about it. Month 1 through month 240, $1,500 automatically invests. Mark it up, it invests. Mark it down, it invests. Amy's motivated, it invests. Amy's unmotivated, it invests. After 20 years, Automated Amy has $523,000. Same income, same goal. Mike has $310,000. Amy has $523,000. The difference, $213,000. That's the value of automation. That's what you lose when you rely on willpower instead of systems. But it's not just about the money. It's about the mental energy. Mike spent 20 years thinking about investing, remembering to invest, feeling guilty when he didn't invest, stressing about whether he invested enough, making decisions about whether to invest or spend. Amy spent 20 years not thinking about it at all. She set it up once. It happened automatically. She used her mental energy on her career, her relationships, her hobbies, her life. Same outcome? No. Amy got way richer. But even if the money had been the same, Amy won because she automated her path to wealth and moved on with her life. That's what systems do. They remove the decision. They remove the stress. They remove the opportunity to fail. The solution. Here's how you build a financial system that makes wealth automatic. Step 1. Map your money flow. Grab a piece of paper. Draw a simple flowchart of where money goes from the moment you get paid. For most people, it looks like this. Paycheck hits checking account. Money sits in checking. Bills get paid manually or automatically. Money gets spent on life. Whatever's left, usually nothing, gets saved or invested. This is a broke person's money flow. It prioritizes spending over wealth building. Here's what a rich person's money flow looks like. Paycheck gets split before it even hits checking. Percentage goes straight to investments. You never see it. Percentage goes to savings, you never see it. Percentage goes to giving charity if that matters to you. Remainder goes to checking for bills and lifestyle. Notice the difference? In the broke flow, investing happens last with whatever's left. In the rich flow, investing happens first, automatically, before you can mess it up. Step 2. Set up direct deposit splits. This is the most powerful automation most people never use. If your employer offers direct deposit, and almost all do, they can usually split your paycheck into multiple accounts. Here's how you set it up. Call HR or log into your payroll system. Set up your direct deposit to go to 3 places, 15 to 20% to your investment account, Roth IRA or brokerage, 5 to 10% to a high-yield savings account, your emergency fund, the rest to your checking account. Now your wealth building happens before you even see the money. You can't spend it. You can't forget to save it. It just happens. If your employer doesn't offer splits, that's okay. Do it yourself with automatic transfers scheduled for the day after payday. Same effect. Step 3. Automate your bills. Every recurring bill should be on auto pay. Rent, utilities, insurance, phone, internet, subscriptions, minimum debt payments, everything. Link them to your checking account or a credit card, if you're responsible with credit. Set it and forget it. This does 2 things. First, you never miss a payment. Second, you free up mental energy. You're not tracking due dates. You're not remembering passwords. You're not logging into 17 websites. It just happens. Step 4. Automate your investments. If you didn't set up direct deposit splits, set up automatic transfers from your checking to your investment account, day after payday, fixed amount, every time. Then, within your investment account, set up automatic investments. Most brokerages let you do this. Your money hits the account and immediately buys whatever fund you've selected. Yahoo! Never have to log in. You never have to click buy. It just happens. This is critical because it removes the biggest investment killer, timing. When you invest manually, you try to time the market. You wait for dips. You hesitate when it's high. You talk yourself out of it. When it's automatic, you invest no matter what the market's doing. You buy high, you buy low, you buy in the middle. Over 20 years, that consistency crushes any attempt at timing. Step 5. Create a spending system. Here's where most people get automation wrong. They automate investing in bills, but leave spending completely unstructured. Then, they blow through everything in checking and wonder where the money went. So you need a spending system. Option 1. The envelope system. Calculate how much you have left after investing, saving, and bills. Divide it into categories: groceries, gas, fund money, whatever matters to you. Once a category is empty, you're done spending there until next month. You can do this digitally using budgeting apps or literally with cash in envelopes if you need the physical constraint. Option 2. The allowance system. After investing, saving, and bills, whatever's left is your weekly allowance. Divide it by 4. That's your weekly spending money. Stay under that number every week and you'll never run out of money before the end of the month. Option 3. The 2-account system. Keep 2 checking accounts, one for bills only, one for spending only. After investing and saving, your paycheck splits between them. Bills account has exactly enough to cover bills. Spending account has what's left. When spending account hits 0, you're done spending. Pick whichever system matches your personality. But pick one. Don't leave spending to chance. Step 6. Set up financial review dates. Automation doesn't mean you never look at your money again. It means you look at it intentionally, not frantically. Set up quarterly money dates with yourself. Every 3 months, 1 hour, review everything. Are your automated transfers still happening? Has your income changed? Adjust percentages. Have your bills changed? Update automation. Check investment balances, but don't change strategy. Celebrate progress. That's it. 4 times a year, 1 hour each. Everything else runs on autopilot. Step 7. Build and increase triggers. The final piece of automation. Automatically increase your investing as you make more money. Every time you get a raise, immediately increase your automated investment by half the raise amount. Got a 4% raise? Increase your investment by 2% and lifestyle by 2%. This way, your wealth building accelerates while your lifestyle slowly improves. You never feel like you're sacrificing more, but your future self gets exponentially richer. Set a calendar reminder every January. Check if income increased. Adjust automated investing accordingly. Do this for 10 years and you'll be investing massive amounts without ever feeling the pain. Real world. Examples. Let me tell you about Jake. Jake was 26 when he automated everything. Entry-level marketing job, making $42,000. He set up direct deposit splits, 15% to his Roth IRA, 5% to savings, 80% to checking. He automated every bill. He gave himself a weekly allowance for spending. That was 9 years ago. Jake is 35 now. He makes $78,000. He got promotions, raised his value, climbed the ladder. But here's the thing. Every raise, he increased his automated investing by half. He's now investing 28% of his income. That's $22,000 a year. And he didn't feel like he sacrificed anything to get there because it happened gradually, automatically. His total invested? $167,000 at 35 years old. He's on track to retire at 50 with over $3 million. And here's what blows my mind. Jake doesn't think about money. He told me, I check my investment account maybe twice a year, on my birthday and New Year's. Other than that, I don't even know what's happening. It just builds. That's the power of automation. It turns you into an accidental millionaire. Now, let me tell you about Rebecca. Rebecca tried automation. She set everything up. Direct deposits, automatic transfers, automatic investments. It was perfect for 3 months. Then she had an expensive month. Some unexpected things came up. She needed access to the money she'd automated away. So she logged in, paused her automated transfers, fixed her immediate problem, and never turned the automation back on. That was 7 years ago. She's been meaning to turn it back on. She's been planning to. She's got it on her to-do list. But manually restarting feels like a project, so she keeps putting it off. 7 years later, she's invested $11,000. If she'd left the automation running, she'd have $93,000. The difference? $82,000. That's what it cost her to turn off her system. This is why you protect your automation like your life depends on it. Because it does. Once you turn it off, restarting requires willpower, and willpower always fails eventually. Momentum builders. Here's what happens when you automate everything. Week 1. You set up the systems. It takes a few hours. It's tedious. You question whether it's worth it, but you finish. Everything's running. Month 1. Your first automated investment happens. You check your account. It's there. You didn't have to do anything. It just worked. You feel smart. Month 3. You forget you're even investing. You're living your life. The money moves automatically. You notice you're not stressed about money anymore. You're not wondering if you remembered to transfer money. It's just handled. Month 6. You get a bonus or a tax refund. Old you would have spent it. New you has a system for windfalls too. Half to investments, half to enjoy. You follow the system without thinking. Year 1. You review your accounts on your money date. You're shocked. You've invested more money this year than you did in your entire 20s combined, and it felt effortless. Year 3. A coworker asks how you're doing financially. You realize you haven't thought about money in months. It just happens. You're building wealth in the background of your life like a computer running updates while you sleep. Year 10. You're wealthy. Not, I think I'll be okay, wealthy. Actually wealthy. You've got multiple 6 figures invested. And the crazy part? You don't remember building it. It just happened, automatically, while you focused on your life. That's what automation gives you. Not just wealth. Peace. Quick recap. Willpower fails. Systems succeed. The people who win with money aren't more disciplined than you. They just built systems that make wealth automatic. Set up direct deposit splits or automatic transfers. 15 to 20% straight to investments. 5 to 10% to savings before you see the money. Automate every bill. Automate your investments. Create a spending system so you don't blow through checking. Review quarterly, not daily. Increase automated investing with every raise. Build it once, protect it forever. Let it run while you live your life. Automation is how you become wealthy without thinking about it. Transition. Okay, you've got the system. Your wealth building is on autopilot. But here's the next challenge. Automation works great when your income is stable. But what about when you need more money? Because here's the truth. You can only cut expenses so much. Eventually, if you want to build wealth faster, you need to make more money. And most people have no idea how to do that without working themselves to death or going back to school for another degree. In the next chapter, I'm going to show you the fastest, most practical ways to increase your income without quitting your job or starting some complicated business. Chapter 6, The Income Acceleration. Earn more without burning out. Here's a harsh truth. You can't cut your way to wealth. I know the personal finance world loves to talk about lattes and avocado toast and how cutting $5 a day will make you rich. And sure, cutting unnecessary expenses matters. We covered that. But there's a limit to how much you can cut. You can't cut below 0. At some point, you've trimmed everything you can trim, and you're still not building wealth fast enough. That's when you need to focus on the other side of the equation, making more money. And here's what nobody tells you. Increasing your income is usually easier than decreasing your expenses. Cutting spending feels like punishment. Making more money feels like possibility. So why doesn't everyone do it? Because they think it requires starting a business or getting a new degree or working 80-hour weeks. It doesn't. In this chapter, I'm going to show you how to increase your income without destroying your life in the process. The problem. Let me introduce you to Amy. Amy is 33. She's a dental hygienist making $54,000 a year. She's doing everything right. She's investing 15%. She's cut her expenses. She's got a system. But she did the math. At her current trajectory, she'll be able to retire at 63 with enough money. Not wealthy, just enough. She wants to retire at 55. She wants to travel. She wants to help her kids with college. She wants more than just enough. But she doesn't see a path. She's already investing as much as she can without feeling broke. She's already cut her lifestyle to the bone, and she can't see how to bridge the gap between where she is and where she wants to be. This is where most people get stuck. They've optimized their current income, but they don't know how to create more income. So they just accept that they'll work until they're old and hope it's enough. That's settling, and you don't have to settle. Let me show you what happens when you increase your income by even a modest amount. Let's say Amy is 33, investing 15% of her $54,000 salary. That's $8,100 a year, or $675 a month. If she does this until 63, she'll have around $850,000. She's right. It's enough, but not amazing. Now let's say Amy figures out how to make an extra $1,000 a month, $12,000 a year, and she invests all of it. That's an additional $1,000 a month invested. Now she's investing $1,675 total per month. By 63, she'll have $1.7 million, double what she would have had. But wait, it gets better. With that extra income and wealth building rate, she can actually retire at 55 with $1.2 million, 8 years earlier with 40% more money. That's the power of increasing income. It doesn't just add to your wealth, it multiplies it. It buys you time, it buys you options, it buys you freedom. And here's the secret. You don't need to double your income. You don't need to become a CEO or start the next Amazon. You just need to increase it by 20 to 30%. That's the sweet spot where everything changes. Why this matters. Let's talk about why this matters beyond just the numbers. When you increase your income, you don't just build wealth faster. You create breathing room. You stop feeling trapped by every little expense. You stop having anxiety every time something unexpected comes up. You know what it's like to live on a razor's edge, where one car repair or one medical bill throws off your whole month? That's not a spending problem. That's an income problem. You can't budget your way out of an income problem. You can only earn your way out. And here's the part that changed my life when I finally understood it. Your income isn't fixed. It feels fixed because you've been trained to think of income as something you're given, not something you create. You go to a job. They tell you what they'll pay you. You accept it. You work for a year. Maybe you get a 3% raise. Maybe you don't. You feel powerless. But that's not how wealth builders think. Wealth builders understand that income is a skill. It's something you can develop, increase, and control way more than you think. And the fastest path to wealth isn't cutting your budget to the bone and suffering for 30 years. It's increasing your income so you can invest massive amounts without feeling like you're sacrificing everything. The solution. Here's the framework for increasing your income without burning out or starting a complicated business. There are 3 paths. You'll probably end up using all 3 at different times, but start with the one that feels most accessible right now. Path 1. Increase your primary income. This is your day job, the place you already spend 40+ hours a week. Most people leave thousands of dollars on the table here because they never ask for more or position themselves to earn more. Strategy 1. Become more valuable in your current role. You don't get paid for showing up. You get paid for the value you create. So create more value. Ask yourself, what problem does my boss or company have that I could solve? What would make my boss's life easier? What skill could I develop that would make me indispensable? Then go solve that problem or develop that skill. Here's an example. You're an account manager. Your boss is constantly stressed about client retention. You notice clients who get quarterly review calls are way less likely to cancel. You volunteer to create a quarterly review system. You implement it. Retention goes up 12%. You document the results. Then you go to your boss and say, I created this system, here's the data on what it did for retention, and I'd like to discuss a raise that reflects this value. That's not begging. That's negotiating from value. Strategy 2. Get better at your job. This sounds obvious, but most people don't actually invest in getting better. They show up, do what's required, and go home. Wealthy people invest in skills that increase their income. They take courses, they get certifications, they read books about their industry. They study people who make more than them and figure out what those people know that they don't. Ask yourself, what's the one skill that would make me twice as valuable in my field? Then go learn it. Obsessively. If you're in sales, master negotiation. If you're in tech, learn the programming language that's in highest demand. If you're in healthcare, get the specialty certification that's rare and valuable. Then leverage that skill into a raise or a better job. Strategy 3. Ask for what you're worth. Most people are underpaid because they never ask for more. They wait for their employer to offer raises. They hope someone notices their value. That's backwards. You have to advocate for yourself. Do this. Research what people in your role typically make in your market. If you're being paid below market rate, you have leverage. Document your wins, your value, your contributions. Then schedule a meeting with your boss. Say this: I've been researching market rates for someone with my experience and skills in this role, and I've found that the typical range is X to Y. Based on the value I've created here, specifically A, B, and C, I'd like to discuss bringing my compensation in line with market rates. Will they say yes every time? No, but you'll be shocked how often they do. And even if they say no, you've planted a seed. You've shown you know your worth. And if they say no and you know you're underpaid, start looking for a new job. The fastest way to increase your income is often to leave. Path 2. Add a side income stream. Your primary job might be maxed out, or maybe it'll take time to increase that income. That's where a side stream comes in. I'm not talking about starting a business or becoming an entrepreneur. I'm talking about simple, practical ways to make an extra $500 to $2,000 a month without quitting your day job. Strategy 1. Freelance your existing skills. You already have skills. You use them at your job every day. Why not sell them outside your job too? You're good at writing? Freelance copywriting or content creation? You're good at design? Do logos and brand identity on nights and weekends? You're good with numbers? Help small businesses with bookkeeping. The beauty of freelancing your existing skills is there's no learning curve. You're already good at it. You just need clients. Where do you find them? Start with your network. Tell everyone you know what you're offering. Post on LinkedIn. Join freelance platforms like Upwork or Fiverr to get your first clients. Then move to direct clients as you build a reputation. Strategy 2. Teach what you know. You know something other people want to learn. You might not think of it as valuable because it's easy for you, but people will pay to learn it. You're good at Excel. Teach an online course. You're good at fitness. Offer coaching. You speak another language. Tutor. Create a simple offering. Price it accessibly. Market it to people who need what you know. Make $1,000 to $3,000 a month teaching a few hours a week. Strategy 3. Service-based side gigs. If you don't want to freelance or teach, there are a million simple service gigs that pay well and require minimal skill. Drive for Uber or Lyft on Friday and Saturday nights. Walk dogs or pet sit through Rover. Do Instacart or DoorDash deliveries. Handyman work if you're handy. House sitting, lawn care. Are these sexy? No, but they're simple, flexible, and can easily add $500 to $1,500 a month to your income. And if you invest every dollar of that side income, it's wealth-accelerating money. The key with side income: don't use it to inflate your lifestyle. That $1,000 a month isn't for a nicer apartment or a new car. It's for investments. It's for freedom. Protect it. Path 3. Leverage one-time windfalls. This isn't a consistent strategy, but when opportunities come up, jump on them. Tax refunds, bonuses, gifts, inheritance, selling stuff you don't use, garage sales. Anytime money hits your hands that you weren't expecting, don't spend it. Invest it. Most people get a $3,000 tax refund and immediately spend it on a vacation or a TV. That $3,000 invested at 8% is over $10,000 in 15 years. Your vacation is a memory. The investment is your future. Make a rule right now. Every dollar of unexpected money gets invested, no exceptions. Real-world examples. Let me tell you about Carlos. Carlos was 31, working as a project manager making $63,000. Good job, stable income, but he wanted more. He used all 3 paths. First, he made himself more valuable at work. He learned a project management software his company didn't use yet, but was considering. He built a demo, showed his boss how it would save time and money. They adopted it. He became the internal expert, got a $12,000 raise. Second, he started freelancing his project management skills on weekends. helped small businesses organize projects and systems, charged $75 an hour, worked 10 hours a week. That's $3,000 a month. Third, he sold a bunch of stuff he wasn't using. Old electronics, furniture he'd replaced, sports equipment collecting dust, made $4,000, invested all of it. Within 1 year, Carlos increased his annual income from $63,000 to $99,000. That's a $36,000 increase. And he invested every extra dollar. 3 years later, he'd built up enough wealth and side income that he quit his job and went full-time freelance, making over $150,000 working 25 hours a week. That's what happens when you stop accepting your income as fixed and start treating it as a variable you control. Now let me tell you about Priya. Priya was 35, making $59,000 as a nurse. She wanted to increase her income but didn't want to work more hours. She was already exhausted. She asked her hospital if they had any PRN, as needed, shifts available that paid more. They did. PRN nurses made $48 an hour instead of her usual $32. She picked up one extra 12-hour shift every 2 weeks. That's one shift every 14 days. That added $1,152 a month to her income, $13,824 a year. She invested every dollar, one shift every 2 weeks. That's it. And over the next 20 years, that one extra shift is worth $637,000 in compound growth. She didn't burn out. She didn't start a business. She didn't go back to school. She just worked one extra shift every 2 weeks and built generational wealth with it. Momentum builders. Here's what happens when you start increasing your income. Month 1, you pick your path. Maybe you start researching what you're worth at your current job. Maybe you list your freelance services. Maybe you sign up for a side gig platform. You take the first step. You're nervous but excited. Month 3, you've made your first extra money outside your regular paycheck. Maybe it's $500. Maybe it's $2,000. Doesn't matter. It's new money. Money you created. You invest all of it. You feel powerful. Month 6, your side income or raise is becoming consistent. You're making an extra $800 to $1,200 a month. That's going straight to investments. You check your account and you're shocked at how fast it's growing compared to before. Year 1, you've increased your income by 15 to 25%. You're investing massively more than you were a year ago. You realize you're building wealth at a pace you never thought possible, and you're not even suffering. Your lifestyle is the same or better. Year 3, you've either maxed out your strategy and moved to a new one, or you're still riding the wave of the first one. Either way, your wealth has exploded. You're looking at numbers that seem impossible compared to where you started. And you're starting to believe early retirement isn't just a dream anymore. That's the income acceleration path. It starts small, it compounds fast, it changes everything. Quick recap. You can't cut your way to wealth. Eventually, you need to make more money. 3 paths. Increase your primary income by becoming more valuable, asking for raises, or switching jobs. Add a side income stream by freelancing, teaching, or doing service gigs. Leverage one-time windfalls by investing every unexpected dollar. Pick one path. Start today. Invest every extra dollar. Watch your wealth-building timeline shrink by years. Your income isn't fixed, it's a skill. Develop it like you'd develop any other skill, and your entire financial life transforms. Transition. Okay, you're making more money. You're investing aggressively. You're building wealth. But here's the problem most people run into next. They build all this wealth and then lose half of it to one stupid decision. I'm talking about taxes, bad investments, unnecessary fees, and financial products that drain your wealth while pretending to protect it. In the next chapter, I'm going to show you how to protect what you're building so it actually compounds instead of leaking away. Chapter 7. The Protection System. Don't lose what you built. Here's something that's going to piss you off. You can do everything right. Invest consistently, increase your income, cut expenses, build wealth, and still end up broke because you didn't protect what you built. I see it all the time. Someone builds $50,000 in investments over 5 years. Then they panic during a market downturn and sell everything at a loss. Gone. Someone else builds 100,000 over 10 years. Then they fall for a hot tip from a coworker and dump it all into a single stock that tanks. Gone. Another person builds 200,000 over 15 years. Then they have a medical emergency with no insurance and it wipes them out. Gone. Building wealth is hard. Losing it is easy. And in this chapter, I'm going to show you how to protect what you've built so it actually compounds into real, lasting wealth instead of disappearing the first time life punches you in the face. The problem. Let me tell you about Kevin. Kevin did everything right in his 20s and early 30s. He started investing at 25. By 35, he'd built 82,000 in his investment accounts. He was on track for early retirement. Then his coworker told him about a can't-miss opportunity, a small pharmaceutical company that was about to get FDA approval. Insider information. The stock was at $8. Once approval hit, it'd go to $50, easy. Kevin pulled 40,000 out of his index funds and bought the stock. Felt like a genius. Told himself this was how wealthy people thought, taking calculated risks. The FDA rejected the drug. The stock dropped to 90 cents. Kevin lost $37,000 in 6 weeks. He'd spent 10 years building 82,000. He destroyed half of it in 6 weeks because he didn't protect his wealth from his own stupidity. Or take Angela. Angela built 130,000 over 12 years. She was disciplined, consistent, doing everything right. Then her daughter got sick, really sick. The medical bills were catastrophic. She had insurance, but the deductibles and out-of-pocket maximums still wiped out 65,000 of her savings. She'd spent 12 years building. She lost half of it in 9 months because she didn't have the right protection in place. Then there's Marcus. Marcus built 220,000 over 18 years. Then he got divorced. His ex-wife's lawyer was better than his. He walked away with 63,000. She got the rest. 18 years of discipline, gone because he didn't protect his assets properly. This is what keeps me up at night. Not people who never start. People who start, build, sacrifice, do everything right, and then lose it all because they didn't put protections in place. Why this matters. Let's talk about what wealth protection actually means. Most people think wealth protection is complicated. Trusts and offshore accounts and lawyers in suits, that's for billionaires. For normal people building their first million, wealth protection is simpler. It's about protecting against 5 threats. Your own emotional decisions, selling during crashes, chasing hot stocks, health emergencies, medical bills that bankrupt you, liability, lawsuits, accidents, someone suing you, death or disability, losing the ability to earn income, bad advice or fraud, scammers, fee-heavy products, terrible investments. Every threat can wipe out years or decades of wealth building. And the tragedy is that protecting against all 5 is relatively simple and cheap. But most people don't do it because they don't think it'll happen to them, until it does. Let me show you what it costs to not protect your wealth. Let's say you're 35. You've built 100,000 over the past 10 years. You're on track to have 2 million by 65 if you keep going. But you don't protect against these threats. And one of them hits. Could be any of them. Doesn't matter which. You lose 50,000. It takes you 3 years to rebuild that 50,000. You're now 3 years behind. Instead of retiring at 65 with 2 million, you retire at 68 with 1.6 million. That one unprotected threat cost you 3 years of your life and $400,000. That's what's at stake. That's why this chapter matters. The solution. Here's how you build a protection system that safeguards your wealth without overcomplicating your life. Protection. 1. Protect against yourself. This is the biggest threat. Your own brain, your emotions, your impulses, your fear, your greed. Strategy. Use friction to your advantage. Make it hard to access your investments. Don't use apps that let you trade with one click. Don't check your balance daily. Don't link your investment accounts to anything. Make selling require effort. Make impulsive decisions nearly impossible. When you set up your investment accounts, don't download the app. Seriously, just don't. Check your balance once a quarter on a computer. That's it. Why? Because if you can check it easily, you will. And every time you check it during a downturn, you'll be tempted to sell. Every time you check it during a boom, you'll be tempted to buy more or shift strategies. Friction protects you from yourself. Strategy. Write down your investment rules. Before you ever face a crisis, write down your rules. Put them somewhere, you'll see them. My rules. I invest every month no matter what the market is doing. I never sell in a downturn. I don't buy individual stocks. I don't invest in anything I don't understand. I don't take investment advice from coworkers, friends, or family. When fear or greed shows up, and they will, you don't make a decision. You just follow your rules. Rules you wrote when you were calm and rational. This one strategy has saved people millions. Protection. Protect against health emergencies. Medical bills are the #1 cause of bankruptcy in America. You can do everything right and lose it all because you got sick or hurt. Strategy. Get adequate health insurance. If your employer offers it, take it, even if it feels expensive. It's way cheaper than a hospital bill. If you're self-employed, get a plan through the healthcare marketplace. Get the best plan you can afford, not the cheapest. And here's the key. Understand your deductible and out-of-pocket maximum. That's the most you'd ever pay in a year. Make sure you could cover that amount with your emergency fund. Strategy. Build a health-specific emergency fund. I know I said earlier to start with a $1,000 emergency fund. That's for breaking the debt cycle. But once you're investing consistently and debt-free, build this up to cover your insurance deductible plus 3 months of living expenses. This fund sits in a high-yield savings account. You never touch it unless there's a health emergency or you lose your job. This is your catastrophe fund. It protects you from having to raid your investments when life goes sideways. Protection. 3. Protect against liability. Someone sues you. You cause an accident. Someone gets hurt on your property. These things happen, and they can destroy your wealth if you're not protected. Strategy. Get umbrella insurance. Once you've built more than $50,000 in assets, get a personal umbrella policy. It's liability coverage that kicks in after your auto or homeowner's insurance maxes out. Cost? Usually around $200 to $400 a year for $1 million of coverage. That's peanuts for what it protects. You don't need a lawyer or complicated setup. Just call your insurance company and add it. Strategy. Don't live beyond your protection. If you've got $1 million net worth and only $200,000 in liability coverage, you're exposed. Your coverage should roughly match your assets. As your wealth grows, increase your coverage. Check it every few years. Protection 4. Protect against death or disability. What happens to your family if you die or become disabled tomorrow? Can they survive financially? Will your spouse have to drain investments to pay bills? Strategy. Get term life insurance. If anyone depends on your income, you need life insurance, not permanent insurance. Whole life, universal life. Those are terrible products. Get term life insurance. How much? 10 to 12 times your annual income. So if you make $60,000, get $600 to $720,000 in coverage. Term life is cheap when you're young. A 30-year-old in decent health can get $500,000 in coverage for around $30 a month. That's $30 a month to ensure your family doesn't lose everything if you die. Do it. Strategy. Get disability insurance. You're way more likely to become disabled than to die young. If you become unable to work, disability insurance replaces part of your income. Many employers offer it. If yours does, take it. If not, buy an individual policy. It's expensive, but it's worth it. Aim for coverage that replaces 60 to 70% of your income. This is the protection people skip because it feels like a waste. Then they get hurt or sick, can't work, and lose everything. Protection 5. Protect against bad advice and fraud. There are people whose entire job is to separate you from your money. Financial advisors who charge huge fees, investment products with hidden costs, scammers who promise guaranteed returns. Strategy. Keep it simple. If you can't explain an investment to a 12-year-old, don't invest in it. If someone's promising guaranteed high returns, it's a scam. If an investment product is complicated, it's probably designed to benefit them, not you. Stick to simple, low-cost index funds. Avoid annuities. Avoid whole life insurance as an investment. Avoid anything with surrender charges or penalties for accessing your money. Strategy. Never pay more than 0.5% in investment fees. Most index funds charge 0.03% to 0.20% in annual fees. If someone's charging you 1% or more to manage your money, they're stealing from you. Over 30 years, the difference between 0.1% fees and 1% fees on a $500,000 portfolio is over $200,000. That's your money going into their pocket instead of your retirement. Check your fees. If they're high, move your money. Real-world examples. Let me tell you about Sarah and Mike. 10 years ago, they both had $80,000 invested. Then, 2020 hit. Market crashed 35% in a month. Sarah panicked. She'd check her account daily, watched it drop from $80,000 to $52,000, couldn't take it anymore, sold everything in April 2020. I'll buy back in when things stabilize. Things stabilized fast. By the time she bought back in 9 months later, the market was higher than when she'd sold. She bought back in at a loss and missed the entire recovery. Today, Sarah has $183,000, which sounds good until you hear about Mike. Mike didn't check his accounts during the crash. He'd set up Friction, no app on his phone, only checked quarterly. By the time he checked in July 2020, the market had already recovered most of the losses. He didn't panic because he never saw the bottom. He stayed invested, kept contributing, let it ride. Today, Mike has $372,000, same starting point, same timeline. Mike has 103% more wealth than Sarah because he protected himself from himself. Now, let me tell you about Jennifer. Jennifer built $95,000 over 14 years. Then her financial advisor convinced her to move everything into an annuity because it was safer and guaranteed. What he didn't tell her, the annuity had a 2.3% annual fee and a 7-year surrender charge. If she wanted her money out in the first 7 years, she'd pay a huge penalty. She's now 3 years in. She's paid nearly $7,000 in fees. Her money has barely grown, and she can't get out without losing even more. That safe product is costing her wealth. If she'd stayed in her simple index fund with 0.05% fees, she'd have $23,000 more right now. She fell for complicated. It cost her. Momentum builders. Here's what happens when you build protection systems. Month 1, you set up the basics. You add Friction to your investment accounts. You get health insurance if you don't have it. You write down your investment rules. It feels boring, unsexy, but you do it. Year 1. The market has a rough month, drops 8%. Your friends are panicking. You don't even notice because you're not checking daily. You just keep investing like nothing happened. Your rules protect you. Year 3, you have a medical emergency. It's expensive, but your insurance covers most of it. Your emergency fund covers the rest. Your investments stay intact. You're back on track within months instead of years. Year 5, a coworker tells you about a can't-miss investment. Your younger self would have been tempted. But you've got rules. You don't invest in things you don't understand. You say no. You later learn that coworker lost $30,000. You dodged a bullet. Year 10. You look back and realize your wealth has grown steadily, without disasters, without massive setbacks. Not because you were lucky, because you built protections that kept you from destroying what you built. That's what protection gives you. Boring, steady, unstoppable wealth growth. Quick recap. Building. Wealth is hard. Losing it is easy. You need protection systems. Protect against yourself. Add Friction. Write down rules. Check accounts quarterly, not daily. Protect against health emergencies. Get good insurance and build a health emergency fund. Protect against liability. Get umbrella insurance. Protect against death or disability. Get term life and disability insurance. Protect against bad advice. Keep investments simple. Watch fees. Avoid complicated products. Build protections now before you need them, because once you need them, it's too late. Transition. All right. You've got the habits. You're paying yourself first. You're killing debt. You're thinking like an investor. You're automating everything. You're increasing income. You're protecting what you build. But here's the final piece most people miss. You can do all of this perfectly and still fail if you don't have a clear vision of where you're going and why. Because wealth without purpose is just a number on a screen. And numbers on screens don't get you out of bed on hard days. They don't keep you going when you want to quit. In the final chapter, I'm going to show you how to build a vision so compelling that these habits become non-negotiable. How to create a financial future so clear that short-term sacrifices feel easy. Let's bring this home. Chapter 8. The 20-year vision. Build a life, not just a number. Let me ask you something. Why are you building wealth? No, really. Not the surface answer, the real answer. Most people say things like, I want to be comfortable, or I don't want to worry about money, or I want to retire someday. That's not a vision. That's not compelling. That won't keep you going when it gets hard. You know what keeps you going? A vision so clear, so vivid, so emotionally powerful that missing an investment feels like stealing from that future. A vision where you can see exactly what your life looks like, who you're with, what you're doing, how you're spending your days. That's what this final chapter is about. Not tactics, not strategies, vision. Because everything we've covered only works if you know why you're doing it. The problem. Let me tell you about Tom. Tom did everything we've talked about. He invested 20% of his income for 8 years. He automated everything. He increased his income. He was on track to retire early with plenty of money. Then he quit. Not because he couldn't afford to keep going, not because life got too hard, but because he didn't know why he was doing it anymore. He'd look at his investment account and see a number going up. Cool. But so what? He didn't have a plan for that money. Didn't have a vision for what it would buy him. It was just a number. So when he wanted to buy a boat, he bought the boat. When he wanted to upgrade his car, he upgraded. When he wanted a bigger house, he bought it. Within 3 years, he'd dismantled everything he'd built, not in one catastrophic moment, just in 1,000 small decisions that all seemed reasonable at the time. This is what happens when you have discipline without vision. The discipline fades. Because discipline without purpose is just suffering, and humans don't suffer indefinitely without a reason. Why this matters. Here's what I've learned after 20 years of teaching people about money. Tactics are easy. Vision is hard. I can teach you how to invest in 20 minutes. I can teach you how to automate in an hour. I can teach you how to budget in 30 minutes, but I can't give you a reason to do any of it. That has to come from you. And without that reason, that clear, emotionally resonant reason, you'll start strong and fade fast. Because when the sacrifice feels real and the payoff feels distant, you'll quit. That's why most people fail at wealth building. Not because they don't know how, because they don't know why. So let me help you build a why that's strong enough to carry you through 20 years of consistency. The solution. Here's how you build a 20-year vision that makes wealth building inevitable. Step 1. Get brutally honest about what you actually want, not what you're supposed to want, not what sounds impressive, what you actually want. Do you want to retire early and travel? Do you want to work less and spend more time with your kids? Do you want to start a business without worrying about money? Do you want to take care of your aging parents? Do you want to leave an inheritance? Do you want to never think about money again? There's no wrong answer, but you need to know your answer. Grab a notebook, right at the top. If money wasn't a constraint, what would my ideal life look like? Then write. Don't edit, don't filter, just write. Step 2. Put a timeline on it. Someday isn't a plan. In 20 years is a plan. So take what you wrote and assign a date. When do you want this life to start? Be realistic, but ambitious. If you're 30 now, can you have this life by 45? By 50? By 55? The timeline matters because it determines how aggressively you need to build. Step 3. Calculate what it costs. This is where vision meets reality. Let's say your ideal life is retiring at 50 and traveling half the year. Cool. What does that cost? You need enough money to live without working. Let's say you need $50,000 a year to live the life you want. Using the 4% rule, you can safely withdraw 4% of your investments annually. You'd need $1.25 million invested. So now you know. To have that life at 50, You need 1.25 million. If you're 30 now, that's 20 years to build it. Break it down further. If you invest $2,000 a month for 20 years at 8%, you'll have 1.1 million. Close enough. So your vision just became concrete. $2,000 a month for 20 years buys you the life you want at 50. Suddenly, it's not abstract anymore. It's math. It's achievable. It's real. Step 4. Make it visible. Vision doesn't work if it lives in your head. You need to see it every day. Create a vision board. I know it sounds cheesy. Do it anyway. Print pictures of the life you want, the places you'll go, the time you'll have, the freedom you'll feel. Put it somewhere you see daily, your bathroom mirror, your car dashboard, your phone wallpaper. Every time you see it, you're reminded why you're saying no to short-term stuff. You're not sacrificing. You're trading. Trading temporary pleasure for permanent freedom. Step 5. Write a letter from future you. This one's powerful. Sit down and write a letter from your future self, the one who achieved the vision, to your current self. Dear 30-year-old me, I'm writing this from the future. It's 20 years later. I'm 50 now, and I'm living the life we dreamed about. I wake up without an alarm. I spend my days doing what I love. I'm not stressed about money. I'm not trapped by a job. I'm free. And I'm free because you, current me, made tough choices. You invested when you wanted to spend. You said no to stuff that didn't matter so I could say yes to a life that does. Thank you for that. Thank you for thinking about me. Because of you, I'm free. Read this letter when you're tempted to quit, when you want to skip an investment, when you want to blow money on something you don't need. Let future you remind current you why this matters. Step 6. Break the vision into milestones. 20 years feels overwhelming, so break it into smaller wins. First milestone, 10,000 invested. Celebrate it. That's proof you can do this. Second milestone, 50,000. That's real wealth. That's momentum. Third milestone, 100,000. This is the hardest one. The first 100 takes forever, but once you hit it, the next 100 comes way faster because compound interest kicks in hard. Fourth milestone, 250,000. You're a quarter of the way to $1 million. You're not rich yet, but you're undeniably winning. Fifth milestone, 500,000, $500,000. Most people will never see this number in their accounts. You did it. Keep going. Final milestone, 1 million. You're a millionaire. The goal you set 20 years ago is real. Celebrate every milestone. They're proof that the vision is working. Real-world examples. Let me tell you about Rachel and David. When I met them 12 years ago, they were 33 and 35. They had 18,000 in debt and 0 invested. I asked them, "What do you want?" They looked at each other. David said, "I don't want to work until I'm 70. Rachel said, "I want to see our grandkids grow up, not just holidays, really be there." We built a vision around that. They wanted to retire at 55. That gave them 20 years to build enough wealth to fund 30-plus years of retirement. We calculated they needed 1.6 million. They printed pictures of grandparents playing with grandkids, hiking, traveling, living. They put those pictures on their fridge. Every time they were tempted to buy something they didn't need, they'd see those pictures. Is this worth stealing from our time with our grandkids? Usually the answer was no. They paid off their debt in 19 months, started investing aggressively, increased their income, protected their wealth. They never missed a month, never quit, because the vision was clear. Today, 12 years later, they're 45 and 47. They have 968,000 invested. They're 8 years from their goal, and they're on track to hit it with room to spare. And here's what Rachel told me last month. Some of our friends think we're crazy. They think we're missing out, but we're not. We're trading stuff we don't care about for a future we can't wait to live. Every month we invest feels like another month of freedom we're buying. That's what vision does. It reframes sacrifice as investment. Now let me tell you about Chris. Chris had all the tactics, he read all the books, he knew what to do, but he didn't have a vision. I asked him why he was investing. He said, "Because I'm supposed to. Because it's the smart thing to do." That's not a vision, that's obligation. And obligation doesn't survive 20 years. Chris lasted 4 years. invested consistently, built 48,000. Then one day he just stopped. Bought a truck he didn't need, stopped investing, started spending more. Within 2 years, he'd spent everything he'd built. I asked him what happened. He said, "I don't know. I just couldn't see the point anymore. I was putting away all this money and I didn't know what for, so I figured I might as well enjoy it now." That's what happens without vision. You drift, and drifting always leads back to broke. Momentum builders. Here's what happens when you build with vision. Month 1. You define your vision, you write it down, you make it visible. You feel a surge of motivation. This is real now. This is happening. Year 1. You hit your first milestone. 10,000 invested. You celebrate. You take a picture of the account balance. You're proud. You're proof that the vision isn't just a dream. Year 3. Someone asks you to do something expensive. Old, you would have said yes out of FOMO. New, you says no easily because you're clear on what matters. You're not missing out. You're building the life you actually want. Year 5. You're halfway to your big milestone. 50,000, 100,000, whatever it is, you can feel the momentum now. This is working. The vision is becoming real. Year 10. Your account balance looks like a phone number. You can't believe it. You remember where you started. You remember the sacrifices. But they don't feel like sacrifices anymore. They feel like the best decisions you ever made. Year 15. You start running the numbers on early retirement. It's not a fantasy anymore. It's a spreadsheet. It's a date. It's real. Year 20. You did it. You built the life you envisioned 2 decades ago. You wake up without an alarm. You spend your days how you want. You're not worried about money. You're free. And you realize the wealth was never the point. The wealth was just the tool that bought you the life you actually wanted. Quick recap tactics. Without vision fail. You need to know why you're building wealth, not just how. Define what you actually want. Put a timeline on it. Calculate what it costs. Make it visible. Write a letter from future you. Break it into milestones. Celebrate every win. Build a vision so compelling that short-term sacrifices feel easy. Because when you know where you're going and why, getting there becomes inevitable. Transition. We've covered everything. You know the habits. You know the systems. You know the vision. Now there's only one thing left. Starting. And that's what we're going to talk about in the closing. Not theory, not more tactics. Just the one decision that changes everything. Closing. The only decision that matters. You made it. You've read this entire book. You know what to do. You know how to do it. You even know why to do it. So now comes the only question that actually matters. Will you start? Not can you? You can. Not should you? You should, but will you? Because here's the truth I've learned after 2 decades of teaching this stuff. Most people who read books like this don't change anything. They nod along. They agree with everything. They feel motivated for about 37 minutes. Then they close the book, go back to their life, and do exactly what they've always done. And 5 years later, they're in the exact same place, wondering why nothing ever changes. Please don't be that person. You know what separates people who build wealth from people who just read about building wealth? One decision. They decided to start. Not tomorrow. Not when things calm down. Not when they feel ready. Now. Let me tell you what your life looks like if you start today. Month 1. You set up your automated investment. It's weird at first. You notice the money leaving. You feel a little scared. But you keep going. Month 3. You've invested 3 times. You look at your balance. It's small, but it's there. It's real. You did that. You're building something. Month 6. You hit your first milestone. Maybe it's 5,000, maybe it's 10. Doesn't matter. It's more than you've ever had invested consistently. You realize you can do this. Year 1. You've invested 12 times without missing. You have actual wealth now. Not rich yet, but undeniably winning. You look back at the person you were a year ago, broke, stressed, overwhelmed, and you barely recognize them. Year 3. You've been doing this long enough that it's automatic. You don't think about it. You don't struggle with it. It just happens, like breathing. And your wealth is growing faster than you imagined because compound interest is starting to kick in. Year 5. You check your balance and you're shocked. You have more money invested than most people twice your age. Your coworkers are still living paycheck to paycheck. You're building generational wealth, and you're not even stressed about it. Year 10. You're wealthy. Not yacht and mansion wealthy, but options and freedom wealthy. You could quit your job and be okay for years. You could take a year off and travel. You could start that business. You could help your parents. You're not trapped anymore. Year 20. You did it. You built the life you envisioned when you started. You're financially free. You work because you want to, not because you have to. You spend your time how you want. You're not worried. You're not stressed. You're free. That's your future if you start today. Now let me show you what your life looks like if you don't. Month 1. You tell yourself you'll start next month when things calm down. Month 3. You're still planning to start. You read another book. You watch more videos. You're learning, but you're not doing. Month 6. You feel guilty every time you think about money. You know you should be investing, but you're not. You tell yourself it's temporary. You'll get to it. Year 1. Another year passed. You're in the same financial position you were a year ago. You make excuses. The market's too high. You're too busy. You have too much debt. You'll start next year. Year 3. You're starting to panic. Your friends who started are talking about their investments. You nod and smile. Inside, you're screaming. You've wasted 3 years. Year 5. You finally start, but you're 5 years behind. You'll get there eventually, but it'll take longer, require more sacrifice, and you'll spend the whole time wishing you'd started when you first learned this. Year 10. You're finally building momentum. But you could have been where you are now 5 years ago if you just started when you first knew you should. Year 20. You're still working. You're not broke, but you're not free either. You're looking at another 10 years of work, and you're haunted by one thought. I should have started 20 years ago. That's your future if you wait. The difference between these two futures isn't luck. It's not intelligence. It's not income. It's one decision. The decision to start. Today. So here's what I want you to do. Right now. Before you put this book down. Before you move on with your day. Before you forget this moment of clarity, pick one thing, just one, not 10 things, not, I'm going to overhaul my entire financial life. Just one thing. Maybe it's setting up automatic investing. Maybe it's opening an investment account. Maybe it's calculating how much you need to invest each month to hit your goals. Maybe it's writing your vision. Pick one thing and do it today, not this week. Today. Because here's what I've learned. The people who take action today are the people who succeed. The people who say, I'll do it tomorrow, never do. You're at a fork in the road right now. One path leads to freedom. The other path leads to the same life you've been living, the same stress, the same, I'll get to it later, the same regret. Which path are you taking? I can't make you choose, but I can tell you this. 5 years from now, you're going to wish you started today. You're going to look back at this moment and think, that's when everything changed. Or, that's when I chickened out and stayed the same. Which story do you want to tell? The people who win with money aren't special. They're not smarter than you. They're not more disciplined. They're not luckier. They just decided to start before they felt ready. They took imperfect action instead of waiting for perfect conditions. They started. Will you? Your future is sitting on the other side of this decision. Your freedom, your options, your peace, your legacy. It's all there, waiting for you to claim it. But it's only available to people who start. So start today, right now. Pick one habit from this book, do it, then protect that habit like your life depends on it, because it does. 10 years from now, when you're wealthy and free and living the life you built, you'll look back at this moment. And you'll thank yourself for having the courage to start. Don't let future you down. Start now. This is your moment. This is your time. Everything you want is on the other side of action. Go build it.